Hey guys, Rick here from Stony Acres Gardening. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about 14 different seeds that you can be direct sowing during the month of May right out in your garden. Now, May is my favorite time of the year. We're doing a ton of planting right now. For most of us, we should be getting pretty close to our last frost date. For us, our last frost date is usually right around the 15th of May, which is this weekend. And so we are looking forward to actually getting out and getting planting. Now, if your frost date's a little bit later than ours, then you may be putting your planting off just a week or two. But for the most part, there are just a ton of things that we can direct sow, put the seed straight in the ground out in the garden during the month of May. So let's get started on the list. First on the list is our summer squashes. So this would be zucchini, crookneck squash, and patapan squashes. They're gonna love being planted right now in May, and they're really easy to plant. I like to just put a little hill together like you're seeing here in this video, a little bit of compost in that hill, and then we're just gonna put 4 or 5 seeds and poke those in the ground about an inch deep, and away we go. It's that simple. Once they come up, I'm probably going to thin it down to the strongest 2 or 3 plants in that hill, and then we are off and running for the season. With the summer squash, you'll actually be seeing a harvest from them in maybe as little as 60 days. And then the next squashes on the list are our winter squashes. And we're going to plant those exactly the same way. These would be things like your Hubbard squash, your acorn squash, banana squash, spaghetti squash, butternut, all of those winter storing squashes we're going to be planting directly in the ground during the month of May. Same deal, about an inch deep, and we'll get those off. And then also with your pumpkins, you're putting in your pumpkins. So your jack-o'-lantern pumpkins, your like the mini pumpkins, and then also those sugar pie pumpkins will all go in right away as well. And then along with that is also going to be our cucumbers. Now, cucumbers are planted a little bit differently. I like to plant mine on a trellis, and so like we've got our big cattle panel trellis here. You're going to plant those at the base of that trellis, and you want to space those out about 4 inches apart. Seeds are going to go again about a ½ inch to an inch deep, and then those will grow up on your trellis. Trellises are always better for those cucumbers because that keeps them from the fruit from laying on the ground, which isn't as good for cucumbers as it is for some of the other squash family plants. And then number 5 on our list is melons. And everybody loves melons. We love to grow melons. They're a lot of fun. Here you're going to be planting your watermelon, your cantaloupes, crenshaws, honeydews. All of those different melons are going to do really well planted in May, direct seeded into the ground. Same way you're going to plant your squashes, about an inch deep, and you'll be off and running with all of those melons. Next on our list is your beans. So here we're talking about your pole beans, your bush beans, and your dried beans. Whether it's green beans, yellow, whatever it is, now is the time to get those planted. One little piece of advice that I will give you on planting beans: it takes a little while for them to germinate, and so something that you can do to help speed up the germination process is soak those bean seeds for about 8 hours before you plant them. So maybe overnight, the night before you're going to plant them, get those in some water and let them soak for a little bit. That doesn't really help the germination rate, but it does help the germination speed. So it speeds up the germination a little bit and helps them to get going. Of course, your pole beans, you're going to want to plant on some type of a trellis or a pole. With the bush beans, about a 4-inch spacing is going to be pretty good. And then beans are just planted an inch deep, and you're in good shape. The beans are pretty easy to take care of. Most of them are going to start being ready to harvest in somewhere between 70 to 90 days after you've planted them, and so you should be getting those somewhere in mid-July to early August. So get those planted right away too. Next on our list is corn, and I'm super excited about corn this year because we are going to be doing all popcorn in our garden this year, and we've got a couple of different varieties that we're going to be trying, and so I'm excited to see how they do. Corn is planted anytime at or around your last frost date. You can even cheat a little bit with corn because it's going to take 7 to 10 days for it to germinate anyways, and so you can usually get that planted just a little bit before your last frost date. Plant those seeds about an inch deep. You want to make sure that you plant those in either hills of about 7 or 8 seeds each, or in big blocks. The whole point of corn is it's wind pollinated, so you have to make sure that there's lots of other corn plants around when you plant them. But about an inch deep, and get those in right away. Your first planting, and then you could even do a succession planting 2 or 3 weeks later as well, for kind of a continuing crop of either sweet corn or popcorn. Next on our list is leafy greens. So these are kind of normally considered cool season crops, but crops like collards and kale and Swiss chard are all actually fairly heat hardy, and they're going to do okay. So you could plant some of those directly in the ground during the month of May. They'll be ready to start eating sometime in mid-July, and those will give you some good cooked greens that you can be growing during the summertime. They're not going to maybe taste quite as good as they do in the spring, but they are still going to be a good crop for you to have kind of in the middle of the summer, when we're not quite ready to harvest our warm season crops, but that's a really good kind of substitute and fill in for you during that time. So get those planted now, and you'll be ready for a good harvest a little bit later on in the summer. And along with that, another root crop that we kind of traditionally consider a cool season crop is beets. And you can actually still continue to plant beets during the month of May. Takes about 60 to 75 days for those to be ready, and they actually stand up pretty well to the heat, and so you should have a good harvest of those again in midsummer, when we kind of have that dead spot in our gardens. You'll have some of those crops that you can be harvesting. And then, of course, there are some lettuce crops that you can still be planting. And I know I've been harping on these a lot here lately, but I love summer crisp lettuces. Varieties that you're looking for here are Nevada, Cherokee, Muir, Magenta, or Fusion. Summer crisp lettuces hold up better to the heat. They're not going to get tip burn, they don't bolt, and they actually don't get as bitter as some of the other lettuces. So you can still be planting some of those for some salads. And then along with that, you can be planting our summer spinaches. So summer spinaches are New Zealand spinach and Malabar spinach. These are not like a traditional spinach plant. They taste a little bit different. They have a different shaped leaf. They actually kind of vine and grow that way, so you don't need to plant as many of them. But these are a warm season crop that we grow during the summer that you can get planted right now. Last on our list is potatoes. And I know that will maybe surprise some of you, but it's still plenty of time for you to get some potatoes planted. The window for planting potatoes is about 4 weeks before your last frost, all the way up until about 4 weeks after your last frost. So we've got plenty of time to get potatoes in. You're going to just put those in the ground now, and as long as you have 90 to 100 days of frost-free weather left in your summer, then you can get those potatoes planted. So get those in the ground, direct seeded of course, with those potatoes, and you should have a great crop all summer long with those as well. Okay, so that is 14 crops that you can be direct seeding in the garden. Did I miss any? If I did, let me know down in the description of this video. And now, of course, there's still a lot of other things that you can be putting out as transplants as well. Your tomatoes, your peppers, your sweet potatoes, all of those kind of things will be going out as well. But these are direct seeded. You can just put the seed in the ground and away you go. So get those guys planted. Now, before we go, make sure that you check out our year-round gardening mini course. So this is a free mini course that we are launching this week. It is free for everybody that wants to watch it, about 45 minutes long, and it's kind of an introduction to the concept of year-round gardening. We're going to be talking a lot about fall and winter gardening in that mini course, and it's in preparation for the launch of our master course, which will be happening in July. Now, why the heck am I talking about fall and winter gardening in May? It's because you need to get your feet under you and understand what it is that you need to be getting ready for, because a lot of us will be planting the first of our fall crops maybe as early as mid-July. And so it's time for you to start thinking about that. So we do have this free 45-minute mini course. The link is down in the description of this video. You can click on that to go check it out. I'd love to have you go sign up for it. It's a fun little course, and I think you'll learn a lot from it. So go check that out as well. Okay, thank you for sticking around to the end of this video. Make sure that you get subscribed to my channel. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and make sure you go follow us over on Instagram as well. All right, we'll talk to you next week. Happy gardening.